If we can transform that contract, if we can reform the contract and cut the bureaucracy and decentralize, then we open the door for the Boston Public Schools to partner with all of those institutions and organizations and resources around this city that make us unique. We have resources that most cities can only dream of. They ought to be much better aligned and partnered with our Boston Public Schools.
I think you do early child education. I would guarantee a pre-K seat for every child who wants one. I also believe that you should have 2 adults in those classrooms, particularly in the early years. Up until 3rd grade, a child is learning to read, and from 3rd grade on, they're reading to learn. So if they're not reading at level at 3rd grade, the rest of the educational time in schools is going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I would like to make sure that our 11th and 12th grades are transformed into career academies. Now, a career academy is a joint venture essentially between the school and a business or other entities. Like, for instance, for the trades, it would probably be with the unions and developers and construction companies where we train kids to get into a career.
That's why I support lifting the charter cap. So many good charter schools here in the city of Boston, and so many parents who want their children in those schools. Those are schools where the decision making is made at the school level. 70% of kids in charter schools in Boston are performing at a proficient level compared to just 15% in our traditional public schools. So I favor lifting the cap on charter schools.
And what I'd like to do with the extended day is to add 2 hours, not so that we can add English or math or science, but so that we can add art and music and gym and things that draw kids to a school. I always talk about how I remember, in my own public school experience, that it was that art class that kept me engaged. It was that art class that I'd sit through science class for so I could go to art. I really appreciated that, and I know that there are kids that want that same thing here in Boston. They don't have that.
I believe we should have in the elected school committee like every one of the 350 cities and towns in Massachusetts. What is it about the intelligence of the Boston voters that we cannot discern who would make a good school committee member and who would not?
Well, I feel a school committee should be appointed. I think an elected school committee brings too much politics into the mix. I'm also looking at expanding the school committee to possibly 9 members to look at and see how we get better representation in every neighborhood in the city of Boston. As far as the superintendent, there's the school committee. Current school committee has begun a search. They should stop the search. The new superintendent is going to work with the new mayor.
I see myself working with the superintendent to bring on high-level quality principals, leadership at those schools, and also teachers at those schools to work to retain that talent in those schools, to work to I think push down some of the authority to those schools so that Court Street is more of a resource and a support center for those schools, but those schools are given the independence, the opportunity to be entrepreneurial.
I'm proud of the public schools, and I think the divisive time of attacking our teachers and attacking the teachers union and the battle that's being set up between the charters and Court Street and the union needs to end. We need to have a civil dialogue about the future of the Boston Public Schools. The next mayor needs to be a bridge builder and a consensus builder and someone who wants all seats at the table.
We also need to make sure that the school committee is far more participatory. Currently, the school committee doesn't have many standing subcommittees, and we need to institute ways for stakeholders, parents, students to interact with the school committee, become part of the public discourse. And right now, it's not happening. And so I agree with Boston residents when they're asking for more accountability. I agree with Boston residents that are asking for more participation and openness in the school committee.